American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, American patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. We have some breaking stories that are happening right now that I did not plan for in advance. So I will go directly to the news media outlet that is reporting them, which is CNN as well as Fox News at the moment. Let's see here. Hunter Biden tax charges dismissed by federal judge following plea deal breakdown. Go figure. Hunter Biden's misdemeanor tax charges have been dismissed by a federal judge in Delaware after the breakdown of the sweetheart plea deal that he was supposed to plead to, which he pleaded not guilty. We all know that he actually cheated out the government by hundreds of thousands of dollars. After the plea deal fell apart, Biden pleaded not guilty as federal prosecutors confirmed he is still under federal investigation. He was expected to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax counts of willfully failure to pay federal income tax as part of a plea deal to avoid jail time on a felony gun charge. So that plea deal now for the at least the tax part, it appears that a federal judge thinks that Hunter Biden is above the law and shouldn't have to pay taxes. Isn't that fucking special? I don't think me and you have that same right. And the other thing that's breaking right now, Georgia state senator moves towards impeaching a DA, Fana Willis, over Trump charges. Now, before I read this, let me just remind you all of something about this particular woman, this DA. She ran on the premises that if you elect me as the DA, I will get Donald Trump. Okay, that was her campaign pledge. State senator in Georgia is moving to impeach Fulton County District Attorney Fana Willis over the charges brought against President Donald Trump. Georgia State Senator Colton Moore is moving to impeach Willis, accusing prosecutor of carrying out a political agenda against Trump. As a Georgia State Senator, I am officially calling for an emergency session to review the actions of Fana Willis, Moore said on his social media sites on Thursday today. America is under attack, and I'm not going to sit back and watch as radical left prosecutors politically target political opponents, he added. Moore also posted a letter to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp to demand a special session be called to address the actions of Fana Willis. We, the undersigned, being duly elected members of the Georgia House of Representatives and Georgia Senate, and comprise 3/5 of each respective house, pursuant to Article 5, Section 2, Paragraph B, therefore certify to you in writing with a copy of the Secretary of State that, in our opinion, an emergency exists in the affairs of the state, requiring a special session to be convened under that section for all purposes to include, without limitation, the review and response to the actions of Fana Willis. Willis held a press conference late Monday after the Fulton County grand jury handed up charges against former President Donald Trump and numerous others. The Georgia District Attorney gave Trump and the other 18 people in the indictment until noon on August 25th to surrender to law enforcement. So, senator is going to step up and try and get that woman thrown the fuck out, which is something that should have happened, I don't know, a long time ago. Okay. Tonight's lead story, speaking of women and the justice system, as the politically motivated witch hunt against former President Donald Trump continues, Americans have learned that U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan has been assigned to the January 6th case. She is known as a far-left liberal Democrat judge. Former President Barack Obama appointed her and her husband, Peter, to highly sought-after judgeships in Washington, D.C. A closer look into her background reveals that she has deep family ties to some of the most influential Marxists in Jamaica. Born in Kingston, Jamaica in 1962, her grandfather, Frank Hill, and great-uncle Ken Hill played a key role in founding Jamaica People's National Party. Ken Hill was by far the most influential member of the Marxist group within the PNP, according to the group itself. Communist Ken Hill was known as probably the most dangerous subversive agent in Jamaica. Her mother, Nicole, is Frank Hill's daughter and Ken Hill's niece. In recent years, this judge has been using her power to hand out harsher sentences to January 6 defendants. She is known for punishing Trump supporters more severely than her peers on the federal bench. This is evidence that she is biased and politically motivated. Many Americans are demanding that she recuse herself from the case, and she's already said she will not. For the 6 cases where Judge sentenced January 6 defendants to prison over federal prosecutors' requests for lesser punitive measures happened in her courtroom. PolitiFact explained, in one instance, she sentenced Matthew Mazzocco, a Texas man who pleaded guilty to parading, demonstrating, or picketing in the Capitol, to 45 days incarceration, 60 hours of community service, and $500 restitution. She rejected the recommendation from prosecutors who asked that he be sentenced to 3 months home detention, 36 months probation, 60 hours community service, and $500 restitution. So she doesn't even give a shit what the DA is asking for. If Mr. Marazzo walks away with probation and a slap on the wrist, that's not going to deter anyone from trying what he did again, she said at his sentencing hearing. It does not, in this court's opinion, indicate the severity, the gravity, and the offenses that he committed on January 6. During one of the sentencings for a January 6 defendant, she complained about the fact Trump remains free to this day. I see the videotapes, the judge said. I see the footage of the flags and the sign the people were carrying and the hats that they were wearing and the MAGA garb. And the people who mobbed the Capitol were there in fidelity and loyalty to one man, not the Constitution, for which most of the people who come before me seem woefully ignorant, not to the ideas of this country and not to the principles of democracy. Its blind loyalty to one person, by the way, remains free to this day, she added. So, yeah. Trump doesn't have a chance in her courtroom. I mean, it's just not a snowball's chance in hell in her courtroom. Fix that shit, Trump attorneys. I've talked about this next story many times and shared with you all how close we are today, closer than at any time in American history, to my knowledge, and I'm 61 years old, that we are closer today to a nuclear war than ever before. I've made it very clear that Joe Biden is 100% responsible for placing America right back into the Cold War again. Well, a coalition of over 100 scientists have raised the alarm on the increasing threat of a world-ending nuclear conflict. The scientists warn that states like Russia, with their dangerous stockpiling of doomsday payloads, are pushing the world closer to the brink of nuclear war. The joint warning emphasizes that a large-scale nuclear war between the U.S. and Russia could claim over 200 million lives in the near term. Additionally, the possibility of a nuclear winter triggered by such a conflict could result in the deaths of 5 to 6 billion people, posing a severe threat to humanity's survival. Scientists caution that any use of nuclear weapons would have catastrophic consequences for humanity. Even a limited nuclear war involved a fraction of the world's nuclear weapons could directly kill 120 million people and cause global climate disruption, leading to a nuclear phantom, putting 2 billion lives at risk. This warning comes on the heels of the doomsday clock being moved to 90 seconds to midnight, indicating an unprecedented level of global catastrophe risk, according to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist. These scientists have chosen to intervene in the geopolitical crisis, emphasizing that addressing the root cause of the problem is essential: the abolishment of nuclear weapons. The underscore is important of following the example set by science in the 1980s, which played a critical role in ending the Cold War arms race by raising awareness about the medical consequences of a nuclear war. Experts attribute the current nuclear climate to Russia's ongoing invasion and war with Ukraine. Russia's threat of using nuclear weapons add to the risk, emphasizing the urgency of eliminating the nuclear arsenal. The scientists call for immediate action, urging renewed efforts to reduce the risk of nuclear war and eliminate nuclear weapons. The stakes are high, and the world must act urgently to avoid a global catastrophe. And I'm sorry to say that we're not moving forward and acting at all. We're a ship without a captain right now. CNN, the far left-leaning Democrat-supporting news media outlet, fact-checked at least 2 lies President Biden told during his speech in Milwaukee on the economy, and said that the president just cannot stop himself. Well, sometimes President Biden just cannot stop himself. During a speech today about the economy, he told at least 2 lies that have already been debunked. CNN's Victor Blackwell said yesterday, before bringing on fact checker Daniel Dell. So, we know the president loves the train. He loves Amtrak. He told the same story several times about a conversation that he claimed he had during his vice presidency with an Amtrak conductor named Angelo Najero. Biden said Najero told him about how he's ridden over 1 million miles on Amtrak and finished by saying, "True story, I swear to God." According to Biden, Najero was referencing something he read about the then vice president flying over 1 million miles on Air Force planes. Dell said it was not a true story and noted that the fact checked Biden's claim in 2021. First of all, this conversation about the 1 million miles flying milestone could not have happened because Mr. Narrowge, who was an Amtrak conductor, was deceased at the time it would have had to have occurred. The man was dead. Unless his ghost spoke to Biden, it never happened. Mr. Narrowge died more than a year prior in 2014. Dell said that the other false element was about how the president said he was going to see his mother, who was sick and hospice care in his home. In fact, she had died 5 years prior to him reaching 1 million miles flown on Air Force Two, Dell said. He noted that while Nadra and Biden did have a relationship, the president has told the false story at least 9 times that he's heard. I've counted at least 9 times as president that Biden has told the story about his friend that's just inaccurate. So it's probably time to retire it, Dell continued. Blackwell also noted that Biden repeated another false story about his grandfather's death being just days before his own birth at the same hospital. This is an economy speech, by the way. Blackwell noted after CNN showed a clip of Biden speaking. His late grandfather, who's an oil executive, Joseph H. Biden, died more than a year before he was born. And so not a few days or a couple of weeks, as he previously said, and in a different hospital. His late grandfather died in Baltimore. President Biden was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I have no idea what the point of this false claim is. Sometimes people get false stories from family members, but it's second time he's done it. And he was fact-checked the first time. So again, it's time he stops this nonsense, Dell said. Biden is recently fact-checked by the Washington Post over his false claim that his son Hunter never had received any money from China. Biden's assertions have been directly rebutted by Hunter himself. In court testimony last week, the young Biden acknowledged that, in fact, he had been paid substantial sums from China, the first official confirmation that this was the case from him directly. And he continues to tell anyone that will listen, especially if he is addressing veterans or active duty service members, that his son, Beau Biden, died while serving in Iraq. His son, Beau, died of brain cancer right here in America, well after his tour of duty in Iraq. So that brought me to what I want to share with you right now. You're going to love this. Now, I'm not going to read all of it. I just selected a few out of it to go over with you because it's 195 lies that Joe Biden has been caught telling. And I have the full list right here of all 195 and counting lies that Joe Biden has told the American people and the world and anybody that listened to him. So, what you may do in the description of this show, once it's over with, at the very bottom will be a link to this article that I'm going to read for you right now that's from the Federalist. And like I say, we're not going to go over all of them. We're just going to go over some of them because I don't have time to go over 195 lies that he told. But we just look at some of the top stuff that he said. Nearly 2 years into President Biden's time in the White House, or 3 years, and the end to his lies is nowhere in sight. Here's part 3 of the Federalist Courage, keeping the Biden administration accountable with fact-checking throughout the president's tenure. Okay, Joe Biden lies about price of gas. During his address back on October 27th, Biden falsely claimed that gas prices were higher when he took office than they were then at the time on October 27th. The most common price for gas in America is $3.39, down from $5 when I took office, Biden said. Not only is the national average for gas currently around $3.76 per gallon, not $3.39, but gas was only around $2.39 per gallon under Donald Trump when Biden assumed office. So that's a lie. Biden claims he hasn't stopped or slowed U.S. oil production. And if you're from Texas or Louisiana, you know right off the bat how silly it is to hear anybody in the administration talk about not having an attack on the oil and gas industry. To defend releasing even more oil reserves, Biden lied that he's not stopped or slowed U.S. oil production. Let's debunk some myths here. My administration has not stopped or slowed U.S. oil production, Biden claimed. Quite the opposite. Oil production may technically be up from its pandemic plunge, but it's still nowhere near the pre-COVID levels archived under Biden's predecessor. And any growth since then is not to Biden. Even before he set foot in the White House, Biden declared a war on oil and fossil fuels. Once elected, the president used some of his first days in office to halt the Keystone Pipeline and effectively shut down public oil and leasing. He has also tried to stop new oil projects and has threatened to eliminate the fossil fuel industry by 2050. All of these actions have hiked gas and energy prices to Americans. So once again, that's a lie from Joe Biden. Biden lies about the effects of Dobbs. During an address at the National Democrat Committee event on October 18th of last year, Biden claimed that when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, women all across the country, starting in my house, lost a fundamental right. Not only is Jill Biden far beyond childbearing age, but many states have used the Dobbs versus Jackson decision, which gave states the power to decide abortion laws to either expand their baby-killing radicalism or not. Delaware, where the First Lady technically resides, allows abortion through fetal viability, which is considered between 24 and 26 weeks gestation. Once again, Joe Biden lied. Biden lies that he lost an awful lot of his home to a fire years ago. During a speech to Hurricane Ivan victims on October 5th last year, Biden falsely claimed that he lost an awful lot in a 2004 kitchen fire in his Delaware home. I know from experience how much anxiety and fear concern is to other people. We didn't lose our whole home, but lightning struck and we lost an awful lot of it about 15 years ago, Biden said. Well, according to the fire chief at the time, calls by a lightning strike was contained in under 20 minutes. Biden also told voters in New Hampshire in November 2021 that his house burned down with First Lady Jill Biden inside of it. I know, having had a house burned down, my wife in it. She got out safely, God willing, and having significant portions of it burned. I can tell you 10 minutes makes hell of a difference, Biden said. Again, although not quite a lie, a misrepresentation to what happened to the house. Biden claims humans make hurricanes worse. President Biden claimed Hurricane Ian was the firm proof of mandated climate change while touring the devastated Florida area. I think the one thing this has finally ended is whether or not there is climate change, and we should do something about it, Biden said. Data on hurricanes, however, only dates back 100 years. Even President Barack Obama's science advisor, Steve Cohen, said humans have no detectable impact on hurricanes over the past century. Again, another Joe Biden lie. Biden claims Roman Catholic Church changed position on ending unborn lives. Now, I was born and raised a Catholic. I'm no longer a Catholic today, but I know that that's a lie. Joe Biden claims to be Catholic. Nancy Pelosi claims to be Catholic. And they both think and say that the Catholic Church has changed their views on this, and therefore it's okay for them to support aborting babies. During remarks at the Democrat National Committee reception, Biden falsely claimed the Roman Catholic Church caved on allowing exceptions for abortion in the case of rape and incest. Now, personally, I do believe there should be an exception of rape and incest. But the Catholic Church says no, although Biden says they said yes. My generic point, and I happen to be a practicing Roman Catholic, my church doesn't even make that argument now. And so we're in a situation where things have changed a lot, but they've gotten more extreme in their position, Biden said. While certain Catholic identifying politicians such as Biden and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, regularly tout abortion, the Catholic Church still remains and maintains that killing a baby whose life begins at conception is a sin. Since the first century, the church has affirmed the more evil of every procured abortion. This teaching has not changed and remains unchangeable. Direct abortion, that is to say, abortion willed either as the end or as means, is gravelly contrary to the moral law. In paragraph 2271 of the Church's Catechism states, even Pope Francis publicly condemned Biden's support for abortion at all. Again, another Joe Biden lie. Biden repeats civil rights activists' lie again. During a Labor Day speech, Biden claimed, as a child, he became very engaged in my case in the civil rights movement. As a kid, I worked in a lot in the movement, Biden said. Not only did Biden himself admit in 1987 that he was not out marching and not down in Selma, but even the media have repeatedly debunked Biden's false accusation that he was there and an activist. Again, Biden says AR-15 bullets travel 5 times faster than any other gun. Now, that's just an outright failure of understanding velocity in bullets and or weapons that are shooting them. In an August 30th speech in Pennsylvania, President Biden claimed the bullet out of an AR-15 travels 5 times as rapidly as a bullet shot out of any other gun. A complete and utter lie. Biden says Inflation Reduction Act will not raise taxes on Americans earning less than $400,000. During the signing ceremony for the Democrat Party's $740 billion Inflation Reduction Act, Biden claimed that no one earning less than $400,000 a year will pay a penny more in federal taxes once the legislation takes effect. Biden's assertion, however, runs contrary to the analysts of the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, which estimates that Americans earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an estimated $20 billion more in taxes over the next decade as a result of the bill, which also sets aside $80 billion to hire 87,000 IRS agents. Again, a lie by Joe Biden. Biden claims he has cancer. In a climate crisis speech about fossil fuels in Massachusetts on July 20th, Biden incorrectly claimed that he has cancer caused by oil pollution in his home state. Biden said that growing up, pollution in Delaware was so bad that his mother had to use windshield wipers to literally get the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so many people I grew up with now have cancer, Biden said. The White House physician quickly released a statement clarifying that Biden remains a healthy, vigorous, at the time, 78-year-old man who is fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency, to include those as chief executive, head of state, and commander-in-chief, and that the only cancer he's ever had is some skin cancers removed. And that's from the sun, Joe. That big orange object in the sky during the daytime hours, that's what gave you skin cancer. But don't take my word for it. Google it. Biden pretends he wrote law review articles about right to privacy. Let's see. During a speech about the Supreme Court Dobbs versus Jackson decision, Biden claimed he had written a number of law reviews about the right to privacy referencing in the now overturned Roe versus Wade decision. And I have written way back a number of law reviews articles about the 9th Amendment and about the 14th Amendment and why that privacy is considered as part of the constitutional guarantee and the there just wiped it all out, he said. Biden may have helped pen close to 19 law review articles and even flunked a law class after plagiarizing portions of someone else's law review article in one of his papers, but he has never had a review published on the right to privacy. As the Washington Post noted, the closest thing Biden has to a law review of the 14th Amendment is a 1991 opinion article in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Again, another lie by Joe Biden. Biden repeats fastest growing economy lie again. Biden told Jimmy Kimmel during a June 8th interview that the U.S. has the fastest growing economy in the world under his watch. Not only did the American economy shrink last quarter, but is also plagued with record high inflations and gas prices, supply chain crisis, baby formula shortage, and has put several babies in the hospital because of it. Again, another lie by Joe Biden. Biden says Trump abused constitutional authority. Now pay close attention to this one. During an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, Biden agreed with accusations that Trump passed out executive orders like Halloween candy. He also accused the former president of abusing the Constitution and constitutional authority by issuing executive orders. I have issued executive orders, Biden said after promising he wouldn't issue executive actions on guns, something he has already done. But what I don't do is what I don't want to do is humiliate Trump's abuse of the Constitution and constitutional authority. I mean that sincerely because I often get asked, look, the Republicans don't play it square. Why don't you play it square? Well, guess what? If we do the same thing they do, our democracy will literally be in jeopardy. While Biden blames Trump for what he says is an excessive amount of executive orders, the facts show Biden is on track to outpace the former president executive authority tally. During the first few months in office, Biden clocked more than 42 executive orders, where Trump, on the other hand, had only issued 33. And by the time Biden's presidency is over with, it will be way higher. So once again, another Joe Biden lie. White House says economy is in a better place now than historically ever. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters in a press briefing on Tuesday that Biden's administration believes the economy is in a better place than it's ever been historically. Not only do voters reject this lie, but so do the facts. Inflation in the U.S. has reached record highs nearly every month recently as the supply chain crisis and national staffing shortages drag on. Since Biden assumed office, gas prices have more than doubled. There's also the baby formula shortage that hasn't let up yet, that began when Biden's Food and Drug Administration shut down a plant. It took months for the White House to even address the critical crisis that left several young children and babies hospitalized and some dead. Again, Joe Biden just can't tell the truth. White House repeats lie that semi-automatic gun ban decrease mass shootings. This one here has been going on for so long. It's so fucking wrong. It's such a blatant lie. And many Democrats and many on the left have just continued to double down on stupid with this. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre repeated the lie that Congress's 1994 semi-automatic gun ban decreased mass shootings when we walked about the executive actions that he'd taken more than any president at this time in their administration. Those are real steps that this president has taken. And not just as president, during his Senate years in 1994, the ban on assault weapons, that is something that he led on, she said during a press briefing on June 6. And if we even look at what happened, those first 10 years of that assault weapons ban was into law, it actually brought down mass shootings. And when it expired in 2004, 10 years later, we saw mass shootings triple. Well, a 2004 study funded by the Department of Justice, however, found that the Clinton-era ban was not the reason shootings decreased in the U.S. We cannot clearly credit the ban with any of the nation's recent drop in gun violence. And indeed, there have been no discernible reduction in the monthly and industrial of gun violence based on indicators like the percentage of gun crimes resulting in death or the share of gunfire incidents resulting in injury, the report stated. The ban impacts on gun violence is likely to be small at best and perhaps too small for reliable measurements. AW's assault weapons were used in no more than 8% of gun crimes even before the ban. Again, another Joe Biden lie. Biden says gun manufacturers have blanket immunity, and that doesn't exist. President Biden claimed gun manufacturers enjoy blanket immunity on how their firearms are used. We should repeal the liability shield that all protect gun manufacturers from being sued for the death and destruction caused by their weapons, Biden said in a gun speech on the eve of June 2nd. They're the only industry in the country that has that kind of immunity. Biden claims, however, enjoyed no merit. Suing a gun company for a gun that fires when the trigger is pulled is akin to suing the Coors Brewing Company because beer got people drunk. The Protection of Law, Commerce, and Arms Act, which became law in 2005, protects firearm manufacturers from liability from weapons used in a crime. Companies, however, may still be sued for neglect, breach of contract over gun purchases, and weapon defects. Again, Joe Biden can't tell the truth, can't be factual for any reason whatsoever, other than he gets his name right. Biden claims the economy was already bad before COVID-19. Shortly before Biden was inaugurated, however, the economy measured an annual growth rate of 4.5%. Another Joe Biden blatant lie. Biden says Americans are better paid under his administration. Well, Biden claimed in his White House, in his Wall Street Journal op-ed, that millions of Americans getting jobs will better pay now that he is in office. Well, that's pretty good. While earnings under Biden have risen 5.5%, real wages are down 2.8%, and prices keep rising above the current 8.3% rate. The average American has lost about $1,350 in purchasing power from President Biden's inflation tax, the American First Policy Institute calculated. Once again, Joe Biden lied. Biden repeats Putin price hike lie. The price of the pump is elevated in large part because Russian oil, gas, and refining capabilities are off the market, Biden wrote in his inflation article in the Wall Street Journal. Gas prices started rising way before the Russia-Ukraine war, when Biden assumed office and waged war on domestic oil and gas production by shutting down drilling and pipelines. Gasoline rose significantly. From Biden's inauguration to the week Russia invaded Ukraine, gas prices rose from $2.38 per gallon to $3.53 per gallon. Again, Joe Biden lied. Biden repeats false cannon claim again. Shortly before Biden signed an executive order on policing, he repeated his claim that when the Second Amendment was created, you couldn't own a cannon. You couldn't own certain kinds of weapons. There's always been limitations, he said, while arguing in favor of more restrictions on Americans' right to keep and bear firearms. Not only were cannons legal when the Constitution was drafted, but they are also legal now. Revolutionary and Civil War era cannons that don't take a cartridge can be bought and sold as saluting and signaling devices in the United States. Certain modern artillery cannons that do take cartridges are classified as destructive devices and are legal and regulated under the National Firearms Act. Once again, go with me, Joe Biden lied. Biden lied about the number of times he visited the Middle East. During his commitment speech at the U.S. Naval Academy in May, Biden claimed he'd been to Iraq and Afghanistan 38 times. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 38 times, Biden stated. Not only did his own campaign confirm in 2019 that this was not true after the first time he stated these falsehoods, but even the Washington Post fact-checked him on the erroneous claim. Biden also implied that his son, Beau Biden, died in combat, even though he passed away from cancer right here in America. My son spent a year in Iraq, won the Bronze Star, Conspicuous Service Medal. I lost him, Biden said. He died while serving in Iraq. No, Joe, he didn't. That's a lie. Biden says he received appointment to the Naval Academy. Who knew? Biden told graduates of the U.S. Naval Academy at their May commitments that he had received an appointment to attend the academy in 1965. Before I began my speech, a thought crossed my mind as I was told the class of 72 is here. I was appointed to the academy in 1965 by a senator who I was running against in 1972, Biden said. Never planned it that way. I wasn't old enough to be sworn in. I was only 29 years old when I was running. He was a fine man, and his name was C. Clabe Boggs. Biden went on to say that he declined to attend the academy because I wanted to be a football star, and you had a guy named Staubach that was there, so I went to Delaware instead, he added. At the time described in Biden's claim, however, the future president was graduating from the University of Delaware. Football players he mentioned as deterrents to his dream of being a football star had also previously already graduated: Roger Staubach in 1965 and Joe Bellino in 1961. Joe, why can't you just tell us the truth? Why do you have to just make shit up? Biden says there was no vaccine available when he took office. The White House claimed no coronavirus vaccine was available when Biden took office. Here's the actual tweet. I'm going to read it to you. The actual tweet. When President Biden took office, millions were unemployed and there was no vaccine available. In the last 15 months, the economy has created 8.3 million jobs. And the unemployment rate stands at 3.6%, the fastest decline in unemployment to start as a president's term ever recorded. Operation Warp Speed, however, a project to fast-track the development of the pandemic disease, produced vaccines in record time. In fact, 1.3 million Americans were given the vaccine on Biden's first day in office, suppressing the vaccination pace. President Biden pledged of 100 million doses distributed in his first 100 days to mark another accomplishment of Donald Trump. Biden even received both doses of the Pfizer vaccine before taking office, supposedly. I will doubt very seriously that he or Trump actually took that jab. Again, another blatant lie. Biden accuses MAGA crowd of being the most extreme political organization in American history. In a rant about the Supreme Court's leaked Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization opinion, signaling the end of Roe versus Wade, Biden accused the MAGA crowd of being the most extreme political organization that exists in American history, before adding recent American history. Biden failed to acknowledge that there were far more extreme and violent groups operating within the U.S. who have initiated deadly terrorist attacks on Americans than the millions of people who voted in support of former President Donald Trump. He also falsely suggested that the Supreme Court rule on Dobbs would allow states to bar LGBT students from attending class with other students. If you have states change the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children, it's legit under the way that the decision is written, he asked. There is no mention of LGBT children or classroom at all in the Dobbs draft because it didn't happen. He made it up. It's a complete and utter lie. Biden repeats lie that buying American products is a top priority. Despite his refusal to utilize the U.S. oil industry to achieve energy independence, Biden said buying American-made products is a priority of his administration. From day one, every action I've taken to rebuild our economy has been guided by one principle: made in America. That means using products, parts, and materials built right here in the United States of America, the president said. Biden told a similar lie during his State of the Union address shortly after the White House defended buying at least $1.3 billion worth of COVID-19 rapid tests from China, the same people that gave us the damn virus. Oh, and the mask came from where? China. You know where the shot needles come from that go to give you the shot? China. Biden claims he was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Is he going to start saying he's an astronaut next? Or that he, I don't know, was on the Titanic? I'd actually believe that. I think he's old enough to have been on the Titanic. Biden repeated a claim on April 14th that he was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, this time claiming full professorship despite his 2017 and 2019 tenure being an honorary position only. For 4 years, I was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania, Biden said during an event of supply chains in Greensboro, North Carolina. Biden, however, didn't teach at the university, according to a spokesman from the former vice president at the time he was hired. Daily Pennsylvania headlining a piece ahead of Biden's arrival. No one is really sure what Joe Biden will do at Penn. According to New York Post, Biden raked in more than $900,000 from the university despite rare appearances. Again, he's a liar. He wasn't a professor. Biden says you couldn't buy cannons when the Second Amendment was passed. Oh, we've already covered that. You could buy cannons. Here's a good one. Biden claims his family worried about gas prices when he was a kid. Because, you're all worried about gas prices. So he wanted to make sure that all you knew that when he was young, they were worried. I grew up in a family like many of you where the price of a gallon of gasoline went up. It was discussed at the kitchen table, Biden claimed. But as real clear market, John Taney noted, after Biden told a similar lie in February, Biden was born in 1942. When Biden was growing up, the price of gasoline was flat, and it was very cheap. A chart from the U.S. Energy Information Administration shows the price of crude oil nearly flat from the 1880s until the 1970s, far after Joe Biden's childhood. Again, he's a liar. Biden says nothing stopping domestic oil production, even though he's the one doing it. Biden said there's nothing standing in the way of domestic oil companies ramping up production as gas prices skyrocket, but he claims are far from the truth. Even before he assumed office, Biden pledged to take down the domestic oil industry in favor of pushing his green agenda. This involved canceling the permits necessary for the Keystone Pipeline, halting new oil and gas leases, and more recently, delaying permits for drilling on federal land. Now, I will say that issue has become wishy-washy. 1 minute, he's talking about he's going to release stuff or drilling on federal lands. He's going to open up areas in Alaska. He's going to do all this stuff that we need him to do. And then the next minute comes along these far left radical climate change freaks and AOC demand that he reverse courses. And then he reverses course. Then a week later, he goes back to, we're going to open up drilling again, and we're going to issue the X amount of permits. And then a week later, we stopped all that. It's just this roller coaster of shit it's not helping anyone. Biden falsely claims transgenderism is safe and healthy. And he knows this how? Oh, I know his wife. She's a doctor, Dr. Biden. Biden told parents of children suffering from gender confusion that affirming your child's identity is one of the most powerful things you can do to keep them safe and healthy. Despite Biden's claim, encouraging young children to take hormone blockers, bind or engage in other physically altering treatments or dangerous and risky procedures is not safe nor healthy. In addition to causing a myriad of harmful side effects, including sterility, severe dysfunction, and other health problems, pushing children to embrace the identity different from their God-given sex often leads to action regret, as well as exceptionally high risk of suicides. Once again, Joe Biden's talking about something he doesn't know shit about. Maybe he's getting his lead from Devaney or whatever her fucking name is, the Bud Light bullshit. Biden repeats, very fine people lie to smear Trump. During a press conference at the NATO summit in Belgium, Biden repeated the lie that Trump called the Charlottesville white nationalists very fine people. Transcripts show that Trump's very fine people line was in reference to the peaceful protesters on both sides who were civil, expressing their opinions about Confederate statues. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same picture you did. You had people in that group that were not there to protest and taking down to them a very, very small statue in the remaining a park from Robert E. Lee to another name, Trump said. Trump specifically said he was not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But yet Biden still throws that up there and lies about it, as do many other Democrats and liberals in Washington, D.C. Biden denies cutting off all domestic production. Shortly after he announced Russian oil would no longer be imported into the U.S., Biden claimed that he never stifled the U.S. oil and gas industry. It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That is simply not true, Biden insisted. The truth is, Biden has done nothing but sabotage the U.S. oil and gas industry and replace it with a green energy policy agenda. The president used his first year in office to wreck domestic production by suppressing oil and gas leases, axing projects such as the Keystone XL pipeline on his first day in office, canceling Arctic drilling leases, and pushing a cascade of taxes and regulatory regulations on the industry. As a result, domestic gas prices were rising drastically before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Painful prices at the pump have quickly become a sore spot for Americans, many of whom have indicated they're looking for a change in the next election. So that is just a few of the 195 that are part of this story from the Federalist. And you can see that in the link description of this video, where you can go and read all the rest of them for yourself if you'd like to, or share it with your friends and family, whatever your case may be. Folks, you got many places to be tonight. Chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. If you haven't already done so, please go to douglasducote.com. Check out the website. Also, in the description of this video and all my shows and videos, you can see the different places you can follow me on social media. Follow me there, and I will follow you back. That's how we do this. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. And if you do not know what blue and gold star families are, or angel families, please Google that, because they need our support more now than ever before, because this current administration is literally pissing on the graves of their loved ones. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Hope you all have a wonderful Friday tomorrow and a wonderful weekend. Whatever you're doing, be safe, be safe, be safe. Watch your six. Take care of your brothers and sisters. Drink lots of water if you're in a heat environment like I am in South Louisiana, or like my cousin is out in Las Vegas. That's some nasty stuff out there, my friends. And we need to take care of one another. Take care of your pets, too. Make sure they got plenty of water and lots of shade to get into. If anything breaks between now and next Tuesday, I'll be sure to put out a video about it or do a live show. Other than that, I plan on taking off and relaxing for the next several days. Hope you can do the same thing as well. God bless you. I'll see y'all soon. Later.